All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here tonight. This evening, we have yet another episode of Larry and I's uh, newest project, Kill This Podcast. And so today, we're just discussing some synchronicities while simultaneously celebrating the Knicks and
Yeah.
their most recent win. So go Knicks. And yeah, so here we are.
So so this is part 2 of Blast Your Way to Megabucks with
Flash
my
your way to make bucks.
power formula.
Yes.
And the subtitle is We Shall Overcome the Dumbfuckness.
Yeah, I have that written
Remember
down
that?
from last time. I remember now. It's coming back to me. But
So,
yeah.
so anyway, there was this great moment that happened right before we started our conversation, and so
Yeah.
I think we should lead with that. But let's actually start with the Knicks first.
Yeah, let's
Uh,
start with the Knicks. How you feeling? How's
I
the
am
vibe?
the vibe is that I feel, and you let me know how you feel about this.
Okay.
That the game 4, where they came back from 29 points,
Mm-hmm.
I would call that magical.
Biggest biggest upset in history. And I think,
Uh,
NBA finals history. So yeah, I mean, there's
I
a lot
love,
to be said for that. And there's so much related to that game, I think, going on, just in terms of, New York City and the world at large. But I'm
yeah.
sorry,
I,
continue.
did was there an did you look up egregore yet? The word
Uh
egg,
I'll do
you
it
know,
right. I'll do it right now. How do you spell it?
and then read the definition.
Oh, it's I wrote it down from last time. I just wrote aggregore meme.
Yeah, it's a thought form. It's something that where the collective creates something that happens.
Mhm.
And I got to say, in terms of like that game, if you watch it, it reminded me so much of the '86 Mets when the champagne was open for Boston. The celebration was underway. There were 2 outs in the ninth inning of Game 6,
Mhm.
and it's not just that they came back with major kind of hit. It was all softball, little league stuff. A ball goes under a guy's legs. A pass ball scores a run. It's just the weirdness of it makes it feel more magical. And if you watch that fourth quarter of that Knicks game, which I've now done 4 times already,
Okay.
see, just to understand how San Antonio couldn't score during this period of time in the fourth quarter with 8 minutes to go, and they were up by, I think, at that point by 15 or 17, and it
Mhm.
just seemed like they could just run the clock out, and uh, and yet they didn't do that, and
Yeah.
they didn't take the time at the last play when the guy steals the ball, and instead of holding on to the ball and trying to pass it to someone else to run out the clock, he tries to go for the layup, and then it's a turnover. And
Mhm.
that kind of stuff, that the whole way that something like that plays out, it doesn't feel connected to reality. And
Really?
yeah, for me, it really it doesn't feel like a coincidence. It does feel like it's part of synchronicity, and part of the thing that we talked about last time was kind of really working on this synchronicity thing, and so if it gets too much and I'm talking about it too
Yeah.
much, let me know. But
Well, let me give you my take.
yeah.
Um cuz I realize I think that now more so my role in this conversation is is the every person.
Yeah,
Maybe the everyman or something like that. So
I like
I'm gonna Yeah, I'm gonna ask you questions. Because yeah, I'm curious. Or not ask you questions. I'll explain to you my point of view. So, have you ever played basketball, by the way?
Yeah, I sure did.
Okay. You were on a team?
I was never on a team, but I was a pretty good defensive player and a pretty good 3-point shooter.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
and what happened was what I loved best when I did best. I was always at a very young age. I was extremely hairy,
Yeah.
a really hairy guy. So I always wanted to be on the team without the shirt on because no one wanted to touch me and defend against me because
Mhm.
my woolly bulliness really freaked out a lot of people.
That's a real thing. That's a real
Yeah.
thing. So,
So I was pretty good.
okay. Yeah, I mean, you got to use what you got. I think
Dude, basketball.
that's the biggest thing.
If if we as a nation played basketball in the nude,
Oh
I
man.
would be the Michael Jordan.
I believe it. I can believe it. What a world it would be. Um I suppose well, what I was going to say is yeah, well I played basketball as a kid. In not into high school, just into grade school and like Catholic school. I played for the Catholic Youth Organization. But anyways, so it's like any sport, any professional sport. You have plays, and you have positions, and you have all that sort of stuff. So what I thought was really cool is I think game 3 was it game 3? No, it must have been maybe game 2. After game 2, Jalen Brunson was talking about it, and he was talking about how they were able to do because I think they did a comeback in that game as well. It was like this. There was the bigger one, but I think there was another one. Anyway, I digress.
Not every game, including last night's.
Yeah, yeah, including last night. So he was saying that their strategies they just let them go, or I mean, he didn't really say strategy. He said something along the lines of how he knew that they were going to go on a run, and then if they went on a run, then the Knicks were going to go on a run, basically. So like it seemed to me that the strategy really was to let them almost tire themselves out. It seemed like they were a younger, more amateur team, versus the Knicks, who are maybe a little more, I guess, experienced in sort of the strategy of the game. So that's what it seemed to me. They kind of let them run off with with the score in the beginning of the game, let them gas themselves out, and then just once that was done, took over. And yeah, it was a winning strategy. It worked for them every time. I don't think it was an accident that they just let them, get up that high. I think it was a legitimate strategy and it paid off.
Well, that is a strategy that I don't recommend trying over and
Yeah.
over.
It's the Queen's Gambit. But it worked. It worked. And yeah, I think, what is it? It's age over, or experience over energy, or I don't know. Whatever. Experience is important.
I have to blame the coaching on San Antonio because it just seemed like they had this lead, then they just were willing to let these guys keep shooting threes instead of they were like taking they were they should have been just holding on with 5 minutes left. You just hold
Yeah.
on to the ball, let it let the clock just run out because you could just every instead of getting the ball and shooting three and missing and turning it over. So it just seemed like a really weird strategy by San Antonio. But to me,
Yeah.
the best thing in terms of synchronicities and stuff that I want to get to is that in game 3, the one game that the Mets lost was the one that Trump went to.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what a
That,
coincidence.
what a
What a
coincidence!
coincidence. Yeah.
What a synchronicity!
The
So
thing is, I don't know if that was a coincidence either. We don't know. I don't want to, yeah, I don't, especially in terms of like, professional sports, like, I don't even know how much I trust professional sports to not be rigged at the end of the day, because it turns out, like, they have been before, you know? So even, like, in that regard, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. It seems awfully theatrical to me, these games. They seem very theatrical to me.
Well, in terms of, so you are connected to the conspiracy aspect that maybe they wanted the games to go to game 7 because there's so much money to be gained by a game 7.
Not necessarily. It's more like, I think it's related more to, like, betting. Like, the more fraught the games are, the more there's gonna be betting, the more, the crazier the betting pool on this stuff is gonna be.
Mm.
And then it's also about the theater of it. If it was rigged, like, it would be huge for New York, because everybody was saying it was like a meme or an egregore that we were gonna win it in 4.
Yeah,
Pardon the rhyme.
yeah, right.
So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. It's outside my purview, but I tend to lean towards, corruption and, conspiracy in times like these.
Well, I mean, yeah, and we're going to get to that today. We're
Sure.
totally get to that. So first, I just, because there, I just want to go over synchronicity again, just to kind of explain, or just make suggestions about of the differences between uh, synchronicities and coincidence, and how Jung meant it, how he was thinking about it. So Jung was thinking that a coincidence is two events happening at the same time with no inherent meaning.
Okay.
So we've all gone through that. We all can experience that. So there's two things that are happening, and it just is a coincidence.
Yeah.
But for Jung, what he was thinking, what is how does a coincidence change into psychological significance, is when you experience something inside of you about an event that mirrors something that happens in the world. For that it feels purposeful, and that's why before we started this, I was telling you about my father-in-law and how he was he was a scientist, an engineer, but
Uh-huh.
he liked to party, and
Yeah.
he was a big gambler, and how the one time the only time we've ever had a suitcase that had to go through the plane, instead of being on the plane, it had to be in the bottom, and we had to wait for luggage, was after he passed.
Mhm.
uh we the luggage, there was an electrical storm on the field. You could see electricity hitting the field, so
Mhm.
they weren't going to unload the plane, and it happened to be New Year's Eve, and we thought we would be home and just have a quiet evening, and instead it was JetBlue, so we were at the TW airport waiting for it, and we could see both the luggage terminal and the electrical storm hitting the field. So all of a sudden now we were in a 3-hour delay. Maybe we got home like 10 o'clock, and all of a sudden we had a New Year's Eve party, uh, because my mother-in-law wanted me to have Walter's clothes to bring home.
Mhm.
Uh, you know, so we were waiting for this luggage, which we never have to wait for. And so I said, God, this is a synchronistic that we're just having a party. Walter would have wanted us to have celebrate a New Year's Eve party. And the only reason we had to celebrate a New Year's Eve party is because we had to wait for Walter's luggage to
Mhm.
to 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 stop this electrical storm. So
Okay. Cool.
Okay, coincidence, sure, but why stop at thinking of it a coincidence? If you have a real event that is emotionally attached to a situation, why not accept that as part of the waking dream life that I mean, that's how I looked at it. Like I'm having a waking dream now, in the
Mm-hmm.
same that when I have a dream, I don't just assume that it doesn't mean anything. Dreams, I don't necessarily know what a dream means, but I and we can have a whole conversation about dreams
Yeah,
next
we
week.
we must. We must. I love dreams. I suppose
Because
that I would argue, just to interrupt, sorry.
yeah,
But I suppose that I would argue that the difference it seems that the difference, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the difference between a coincidence and synchronicity is that we ascribe meaning to synchronicity. That
correct.
or or purpose
Principle. It's a
or
link
like
between the psyche and the world. It,
right.
it's it's what feels connected, and so this feeling of connection should not be ignored just because it's a coincidence, but it has a feeling, because it has a feeling attached to it of connection. Why not just go with it? Why cut that out of a possibility of understanding something that then you're talking to your inner world about? You're now connected to that dreamlike world that you're in the moment of, because the synchronistic moment only works, coincidences only work for the person who's having them. When you try to describe this to other people, it just all sounds like coincidences. However, for my life, that moment felt connected to my dream life state, to other aspects of my life. And I wanted to hold it as a special moment. So I'm making the magic out of it. I'm creating something that says, this is a special moment for me that is more than just a coincidence.
So I guess my question would be then if let's see, how do I put this? So it is so if it's so meaningful, or the fact that it is so meaningful, I guess for me I would ask, why is that not enough? Like, do we have to add more to it? Cuz I mean that is the reality, isn't it, that we can add meaning, or we can ascribe our own meaning to things that happen, even if they are coincidences. I don't think that I'm not sure that we have to make that distinction between something being a coincidence and saying that it can't also have meaning, because I think that it can have both. And it's us that ascribe that meaning to it, as opposed to necessarily that meaning coming from outside. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's maybe necessary to make it ethereal or like otherworldly, as opposed to, I think it's beautiful just as it is, that the reality of it being like something that could shouldn't have happened, possibly just because of how rare it could be, that it still did, even though that it's just random. I think it's more or romantic to be random, almost, because there's a higher probability of it not happening.
I like what you're saying here, and you know, I want to say that a coincidence is, it could be seen as a simple statistical overlap. It
Sure.
may be interesting, surprising, improbable,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't carry symbolic weight.
Why not?
Well, because it's just a random thing. Events that occur together. It has no causal link and no psychological meaning. Whereas when we're talking about what Jung is talking about with a synchronicity, it's events that occur together. It doesn't seem to have a causal link, but it has some deeper meaning for the person experiencing it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not about it's sure it just feels more powerful. And I mean,
Yeah.
have you
Yeah.
you had a moment of coincidence in your life where you like randomly ran into someone who you never expected to see in a million years, and you say, what a coincidence, but it turns out that it feels like a relationship that was gone now has developed because of it. It feels like something more powerful has happened in this moment of the coincidence.
I feel like that with every, I think with every relationship I've had, with every person that I've had any sort of a relationship with, I feel blessed that they've entered my life. It's so funny that you should mention that because I actually have a perfect story for that. I don't know if I've told it to you before, but as a kid when I was living in Georgia, I had this really good friend who my parents, I think my dad worked with her dad or something like that. So we were little babies together, and then they ended up moving from Georgia to New Mexico. I think they moved to Albuquerque, and I thought that sounded like such a cool place. But fast forward to I think like 2013, 2014, I moved out west to Portland, Oregon, and one night, I don't know why, I just had a feeling that I should try to look her up. Not having talked to her in probably like 20 plus years, 25 years at that point. So I was able to track her down on Facebook, and that's a whole other story because she was under a different name and all this stuff is crazy. But I
Ow.
was, but I was able,
Wait,
huh?
did you do that detective work?
Yeah. Well, I found her parents. I found, I think, her mom or her dad, on Facebook, and then she was friends with them. My parents know them, and so I told my parents um, that her parents were on Facebook. I don't know if they had kept in contact. I don't think they do, but they talk nowadays. I think they might have hung out recently or in the
Wow.
past couple of years. But anyway, so I find her on Facebook, and I find out that she moved to Portland, Oregon, like months, like maybe 2 months before I did. And so
Wow.
yeah, I got a hold of her through Facebook, and we hung out a couple times and reconnected and talked about, yeah, old times, and it was cool. And now we're friends on Facebook. We don't really talk, but we lead different lives. But it was, yeah, it was one of those weird, coincidences slash synchronicities. But
Oh
at the
shit!
same
I'm getting you
time,
to
I'm like,
get you to use the word. Holy shit!
but the thing is, like, I did the work. You know, it was
Yeah,
it was
but
me. I did it. I'm not gonna give anybody else credit.
right. But I'm sure they're okay. So
Uh
let me
huh.
tell you, I don't think I fully explained the best way how Jung came up with it, and so
Okay.
how Jung came up with this, and I think it's such a good story of how what happened. Uh, so he was with a patient, and the patient dreams of a golden scarab,
Uh huh.
and at that moment that she's describing this dream of this beetle, a fucking scarab beetle taps on Jung's window as she's talking about it.
Where are they? Are they in Egypt?
No, they're not in Egypt. A scarab, it's a type of beetle.
Oh, it's a type of beetle. Okay, I assumed it was Egyptian.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you could look a golden scarab.
Golden scarab. Well, it's funny because it's. I think the scarab, or at least in Egypt, it's like an Egyptian symbol. But I remember reading about it in some account by what's the original Satanist? What's his name? The
Anton, hey,
Yeah, Anton LaVey talks. He writes about going to an Egyptian tomb, I think, and doing like spells and talking to spirits and things like
sure.
that. But
Get to
yeah,
the
it's very
black.
powerful. It's a
We'll
very powerful symbol.
we'll get to the black magic and that stuff down the line. But you know, for my focus is on the positive elements that magic has, and we'll get to what the darkness is. You know,
Yeah, well, you can't have one without the other, I suppose.
so the and he's like, the insect is not the cause of the dream, and the dream is not the cause of the insect, but the
Mm-hmm.
symbolic alignment of how it breaks the patient, it changed the patient's rigid rational mind and opened her psyche up. So maybe, for you, like, maybe you haven't had really a synchronicity where it felt really special. I
Well,
mean
well,
this
well, I definitely have had coincidences that have felt special. Like I've met people. Like I was just talking to you about that. Um, but it's more so I don't know if I see how necessary it is to add a mystical element to it. To add like the unnamed element simply because I think it's wonderful. I think the mystery is wonderful, and the coincidence is wonderful, because yeah, how else, like, if there was really such a small chance of it happening, I think that's a beautiful thing that it did happen. Like I do think it's a wonderful thing. I think we don't want to put it in a box. I don't want to try to describe it. I don't want to.
and you don't have to. I'm
Yeah.
merely just revealing what Jung's idea was, and
Mhm.
how these things, that these coincidences can reveal unconscious material,
Yeah.
and that it acts like a mirror that is held up in front of you, and it reflects. It can possibly, like the way it helped this woman
Mhm.
re- reflect her rigidity, just by seeing this dream. She's telling about this dream, and then the dream becomes happens right in front of her.
Yeah.
So so it can be, for some people it can be psychologically transformative.
Mhm.
It could be about grief or crisis or falling in love or a spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever had a spiritual awakening where you had like some moment where you always held on, like the way maybe the spiritual awakening for you was when you decided there is no God?
Well, I've talked to God.
Oh, then talk
I've
to me about
Yeah, I've taken. I can't really describe to you how many psychedelics I've taken in my life.
it. Okay.
um, and I just, yeah, I remember one specific instance where I was texting my ex girlfriend, and I thought that I was talking to God through a cell phone, and we were talking about, like, how there really is no difference between God and the devil, and I honestly, now that I think about it, I think that was part of my kind of awakening to more like my belief in, animism, or my to where my spirituality is. Cuz I do say that I am an atheist, but I do feel like a spiritual person.
You are one. A
Yeah.
hundred. I feel it from you. I feel. I mean, I think that's the connection, and it,
Yeah.
what, and not trying to make you believe, or I mean, this whole thing for me, about occultism, and why the way I'm trying to present it, and the way that it works for me,
Mhm.
is not the woohoo stuff of mysticism, and it is a lot of reality based. It's a and for me, the synchronicity is a doorway
Mhm.
into looking into deeper layers of my own mind. So
Absolutely, yeah.
so that when we get home from this trip, and like the next day, there's a there's a black cat outside, and we haven't had many kittens coming to the door in the last years. I mean, we save cats. We've had as many as 12 cats that we've saved, and
Yeah.
we many of them during COVID. And at the time when this young punk cat came to our door,
Hmm.
we had many, and he just he reminded me of Walter.
Yeah.
His energy was the same as Rachel's dad was,
Hmm.
and so I named him Mr. Lucky after the pool hall that he went to, and that's actually one of the songs on the album
Yeah.
is is based on Walter and kind of energy that he had. That cool pool hall shark of a player,
Hmm.
the guy who would gamble every week and never lose, the chaotic way that he would win. And then I'm dealing with this cat who's behaving just like him.
Yeah. 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 Funny coincidence or funny synchronicity, I should say.
Yeah, and
I,
and so and what happens also is that synchronicities, it challenges materialism. It suggests that mind and matter are are not separate, that they're interwoven,
hmm.
and so that's also where I am looking at it from something more than just coincidence.
Yeah.
Coincidence is statistical, as synchronicity is symbolic,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
coincidence is a chance encounter. A synchronicity has meaning.
Yeah, I really think that you're speaking to, what honestly makes us human at the end of the day. I really think you're speaking to, our desire to, communicate, to tell stories, to explain ourselves and our point of view to each other. And it really is important, I think, just, in a communal sense, to have that, to have things that we do together, to have symbols that we share, like the Knicks,
Yeah,
that bring us together and keep us from killing each other at the very least. So yeah, I absolutely feel what you're saying in terms of, just ascribing meaning to things is super important for so many reasons. It's what makes
I
us who we are.
right. I was a writing major and literature, and,
Me
and
too.
I actually,
Synchronicity.
what's that?
I said me too. Synchronicity.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay. So, by the way, for the next episode,
Uh-huh.
I think I want to talk about literature and the mystical elements of literature, and so
Yeah, I got a stack of books over here I want to talk
I,
to you about.
what's that?
I said, "Yeah, I got a stack of books over here I want to talk to you about at some point."
Oh, awesome. That's great. So,
Yeah.
if we can do that. So, so coincidences is random, and synchronicities are, some revelation that I'm thinking about myself. Remember that I'm always talking about magical practices not as just something for the individual, not stuff that I'm putting a spell. I mean, that's dangerous stuff, and that works too. But that's not what I. That's not the kind of magic that I practice. I'm practicing something where it's all about my inner workings that I want to do. You know.
Yeah, yeah. I really think it's interesting we're exploring like the intersection between, psychology and symbology.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah.
You know.
So how about those Knicks? Yeah, sorry.
Especially
I
now.
had the soundboard.
Especially now, you have a city where Trump is about to unleash ice on the city. Do you know about this?
Who's about to really? Wait, what do
Trump
you on
on New
on New
York.
York City?
Yeah.
Wow.
I went to a Met game just recently, and I was like shocked at how many of the now this is a Flushing Main Street's Chinatown is huge, and I
Mm-hmm.
was
Yeah.
noticing in the middle of the day that many of the stores were closed, and
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if this is related to ICE raids, or I don't know
Yeah.
what's going on in Flushing.
I
I
I
meant,
I really hope not. Ice is definitely up here, upstate, and I follow the local subreddit, and every once in a while there will be an alert for when they're doing raids and things of that nature. They have a group of people, I guess, or a group who will go out and like observe and record and all that. But
yeah,
at the I guess that's the silver lining is we're seeing people actually starting to stand up for each other. And I imagine if we start seeing stuff in if they really raid New York, we'll start seeing New Yorkers stand up for each other because that's really the whole thing about New York, I think.
well, we saw the energy that can happen from the Knicks.
Yeah, yeah. I
I,
mean,
I saw
especially now, especially
if
now.
I were if I saw that kind of energy, I'd be like, I don't think it's a good idea to go to New York right now.
No, I mean, yeah, we've never it's never been more of a community, I think, than right at this moment. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see
You
what
know
happens.
that French expression "je ne sais quoi." I know not what.
What is it? What does it mean?
Je ne sais quoi.
Je ne
It
sais
means
quoi.
I know not what.
I know
Well,
not what. Okay.
here here in Brooklyn, we say "je ne sais what the fuck." And so
Yeah.
we're in this society where we're flooded by these fears and this humiliation and economic weirdness and identity panic,
Mm-hmm.
and the people are highly suggestible now, and this is how we got these demagogues and
It's the old divide and conquer. Always
yeah,
has been. Always has been.
conspiracy,
So it's so it's
conspiracy
like
entrepreneurs.
are we at the crumbling of the Roman Tower? Are we at bread and circuses? Like I kind of think that we are.
Well, I think that it can be countered, and I think that
Mm. Do we
been
want to?
we've been through this before. We've been through the repetition. We've been through us versus them narratives.
Right.
This is all. It's I've been reading science fiction dystopian stuff since I was 13 years old. So
Mm-hmm.
this is all apocalyptic framing, promises of purity, restoration.
Yeah.
It's all. What Jung called it was the possession of the collective shadow,
Okay.
and anthropologists would call it a moral panic. I do call it black magic and sorcery. It's psychology weaponized.
Yeah. Yeah. It
It,
very much is.
we're being played, and so
Well, I mean, that's a whole other part of it too. Is like we can when you start going down these conspiracy theory rabbit holes. That's when you start getting into like the actual operations where you have the CIA, putting LSD in the water, uh,
right,
specifically to try to mind control people. And so,
yeah,
yeah, it's very much so like that is the goal, and
right.
I think we're seeing that more and more.
If you are willing to break it down, if you are willing, these what makes podcasts so special is the
Hmm.
willingness to take the time to unfurl on ideas that not it's not memes. We can't say this shit in a sentence or two and have it mean something. It has to
Right?
be kind of expressed, in a bigger way. For example, like the immigration. Is it a real problem?
No,
Is immigration a real problem?
no.
How do you know? How do you know immigration is not a real problem? We're being told constantly, repeatedly. Many
That
people believe immigration is a problem. How do
that's
you
how
know?
I know. That's how I know.
But I mean, but the thing is that the
And I know
with
that immigration is natural, migration is natural. In all other species, unfettered migration is the best possible way to go. Why not for humans? Why are we so special?
yeah, but also the data that proves it. The Pew Institute, Cato,
Sure.
Migration Policy Institute. Documented or undocumented commit fewer violent crimes than native born Americans.
Absolutely. And it's not even close. It's
It's
not
not
even
even,
close.
and you know what? All you have to do really is think about your own family that were immigrants at some point, and you say, well, they were just cleaning toilets.
Hmm.
There are very few incidents of criminal activity coming out of immigrants.
Yeah. I actually ended a friendship for multiple reasons, but part of it was because we started having the conversation about immigration. And it's so crazy because this person in particular had a someone in their family who was known for molesting, members of the family.
Oh my
And
God.
so they were talking to, and then they told me about all this, and it was very sad. But then they were talking to me about immigrants and all these the assaults of immigrants, and I was like, even if you look at your own life, you will see that the amount of damage that immigrants have done to you personally and your family personally pales in comparison to what your own family has done to itself. And that's the reality, because all of you, where you are, you're like 80% of the population. He was in the UK. So I'm like, you guys are like not even eight, you guys are like 95% of the population. So what do you think that, why are you blaming this tiny, tiny piece of the population who, you're being played? You're being played by the powers that be.
The fear though for people is real.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
threat is not.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the whole thing.
Yeah, how do you get that? I mean, it's like it's like the insanity. Another thing is the Antifa.
Mhm.
It's not an organization. There's no membership, no hierarchy, no leader, no national structure. It's just
Yeah.
it's just loosely connected anti-fascist ideas. People will have tactics of how to deal with fascists. I mean, the FBI, the DHS, they repeatedly stated that Antifa is not a terrorist organization, and
Mhm.
there's no central location. But people imagine it as a shadow army, because because when you are fighting the kind of war that they're creating, you need a monster.
Yeah. Yep.
I was thinking maybe we should have a organization for ourselves called the Boogeymen or something, or the Boogie Beats. Because the real monster is the fascism, and so it's an amazing trick. Talk about a magical trick, and that's why I call it black magic, because it is something that is it just it's we don't understand it, right? We don't get it. Why people would cling to the fantasy. You know, uh, so why do you think people cling to the fantasies of these things?
Wait, cling to the fantasies of what?
The
Sorry.
fantasies of that immigration is the problem, or that Antifa is this organization,
Oh,
or the
okay.
commies are coming to get us.
Because it's easier to blame external problems
Uh,
rather than deal with the problems we have within ourselves or within our own communities.
we'd
You
have
know?
to you'd have to admit that you were manipulated.
Yeah. Yeah, you would. And I'm sure that's very hard for a lot of people, I'm sure,
You'd have to admit that your fear was misplaced.
Mhm.
You'd have to you'd have to admit that you projected your own shadow shit on others.
Right. That's exactly right.
You
And
know,
so
so the,
yeah.
the so the psyche always defends itself with denial, and doubling down, and and it doesn't know. It's a and you now you have this world. Social media is rewarding outrage.
Mm-hmm.
You got the economic insecurity stuff going on, where people are feeling resentment, and they might see immigrants working hard and have a home, and but they think that something is being taken away from them, but you didn't want that fucking job cleaning toilets. And now you got these political fuckers who are weaponizing fear,
Mm-hmm.
and people just feel powerless, and so they're acting out. you know the
Yeah.
collective unconscious is stirred up, and not like the in the good way when the Knicks won, in the other way.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that we're seeing, the sleeping giant waking up as the collective consciousness or the collective unconsciousness becoming conscious, and people just opening their eyes up to reality.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
think that's
the
the
people
problem.
I mean, I
Mhm.
think that the real point of even doing this podcast is really because it's moments like this when artists and uh, mystics and cultural shamans, the underground that I came out of in the East Village.
Mhm.
What I saw that came out of that in the '80s was a defiance of 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 joy and dance. People making music to dance around,
Yeah.
and to joke around. I mean, I had in '83 when I graduated college. I thought comedy was the way that I was going to go, and I would
Uh-huh.
do. I'd go to comedy clubs, and it was not a joyful experience. It was not. It was really competitive and weird.
Mhm.
Just and I said, fuck this, I'm going to CB's, and just danced with people and had laughs, and just had such a better time
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
than
I've
the,
heard that.
I really, I mean, there were great comics, and that I got to see Robin Williams up close, and I got to see really
Oh,
great
cool.
comics. But
Yeah.
between sets and stuff, there was just it was really
Bad
hard.
vibes.
Yeah,
it
it was really hard.
it's so funny
So,
that you say that, cuz I was just talking with Ray, cuz Ray actually did Ray does improv. And
oh
so
wow,
she did uh UCB
oh wow,
for a little while. So yeah, so we're always watching Netflix, and she'll be like, "Oh, I know them. Oh, I did improv with them." But she
oh
was
that's
saying the same thing, is that she thought about doing comedy at some point, at one point, and it's just like the vibe of the club, because it is competitive. It's for money, whereas she says that doing improv is because it's for the story. You want to weave a
yes,
story, as opposed to just like make people laugh.
yes. I love that. Yes,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love that very much. So one of the other things that we were kind of, so I think we're covered synchronicity for the time. We'll probably keep getting back to coincidence and synchronicity, but at least now
Yeah.
I
I,
think you have a good idea of where I'm coming from,
yeah.
where it's not about trying to make anyone think of anything, unless you just want to experience this world in kind of possibly a metaphorical literature kind of way. I mean, if you're writing and you're a literature major, then if you look at the literature, and we'll get to that next week, I think that we should definitely have this conversation,
Mm-hmm.
because I that you'll see a way of how I use literature in kind of the same myth making way of in a magical way of how that is why so much of the lyrics that I'm writing for Faculty X
Mm-hmm.
are related to books and
Yeah.
literature. I actually lean on that a lot, and complicated writers are fascinating to me. But we'll get to that next week. I wanted to get back to the idea of scientists and the occult,
Okay.
because so many, besides the social scientists of people like Jung and Freud, that the mathematician Kepler used mystical geometry to discover planetary motion, and Wolfgang Pauli in his dreams, and I talked about it last week about how he used the insights from his dream life to use in the quantum physics, and it was Jung who helped him in that area, and it was that's where for me the magic is, the imagination. Math is the language of patterns,
Right.
and imagination is the generator of the patterns. Not only entirely, and a lot of occultists would want to cast a really spell on me right now, but but I'm just using it as examples of how that's occult language, secret knowledge. He has these dreams. He becomes an alcoholic from these dreams. He's having a ruinous life, and then Jung has him working with someone who, not him directly, and then after like a year, finally says, "Okay, now we can talk," because he's worked out some of the other issues of his life, and
Okay.
now he can talk now about these dreams in a different way, and so Jung and Pauli were really important in making some discoveries about quantum mechanics and physics. I mean, they weren't proving magic; they were proving that imagination can be a scientific tool, and that the magical part in this universe is keeps turning out strange and more symbolic and more interconnected than classical science experiences. And so this is why I'm so quite often so disappointed with scientists who like think that they're being rational and stuff, and not paying attention to the bigger picture and the bigger scientists like Tesla and Pauli and all these, and Einstein too. I
Yeah.
mean, so for example, this the one of the issues with magical thinking and stuff like that is that what Einstein was thinking is that he didn't want people to separate space and time, and he talked about this, and he more imagined the way, uh one way of thinking about it is, imagine space as a giant trampoline.
Okay.
Okay, and now imagine time is woven into this fabric. It's part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when but what happens when something heavy like a planet sits on the trampoline?
It sinks.
It sinks. It's gravity. Exactly. Exactly. So Einstein was saying space and time aren't two things; they're one stretchy fabric.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything in this universe is dancing on this fabric. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. It's
really, it's actually simple. That's it.
yeah. That's
No
why.
equation. There's
Yeah.
no woohoo. It's just a picture, and that's why. So when
Well, let me just
people,
I just want to
yes,
interrupt
sure,
real quick. I
sure,
really love the visualization because that really ties into like my a theory I really love, which is just the electric theory of the universe, which is
yeah,
that everything is energy, and so energy moves in waves, and it moves in
yes,
waves and it ripples, and bounces off stuff and all this stuff. So it's like the
Is
interaction
that
of
from is
these.
that from quantum physics? Is that like from the
If
people who created quantum physics? Because it
it
sure sounds like it.
it very well could be. I heard it through Terrence Howard, but I'm sure he's not the originator of the theory.
Yeah,
But yeah,
look into that because to me that it sounds very much like what quantum physicists say. And
right.
you know how in our first episode uh, we did people who can see things very far away, and it was
Mm-hmm.
all like physicists who were being hired to do this.
Okay.
It was mostly physicists and scientists who were being hired to sit and think, where is this weapon at, and where is this thing at in the universe, and you know uh you know uh Ingo Swann and all those people, McGonagall, and all the people who are involved with remote viewing. That was our first. Yeah, everyone should listen
Yeah.
to that first.
Yeah. Good. Great. Excellent callback. Yeah. Please go listen to
Yeah,
that, folks.
yeah, and I think that's something that it will always be connected within our episodes and what we're doing. It's all a fabric that, not unlike space time, that is connected. And
Mhm.
so once, if you really understand that, if you really now can cannot separate space and time, then what what is our inner world, and what does it want to do, what is this unconscious, uh what 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 do we understand about what happened in the past and the future is now something that is a continuous one thing.
Mhm.
So, I mean, this is why, and this is really straight out of Einstein's theory of relativity, that it is just one flowing motion of energies. The inner, and our inner world is what's not logical. It's symbolic. It speaks in images and
Yeah.
impulses and fears and fantasy and old wounds. Old wounds are really important. It's our traumas that happen as children that make us think that the past is something that happened a long time ago, instead of it all being part of some continuously flowing energy. you
Yeah.
know the,
I
the, the unconscious is thinking that it's trying to protect us. It's using old maps that we got from our families, maps drawn in childhood, maps drawn in trauma,
well, grooves in
maps
your
drawn in
brain.
moments that we can barely remember you know but what happens when we suddenly understand that we don't have to believe in these old maps?
Yeah, I mean, it physically wears grooves in your brain. Thinking of
Yeah.
certain things and ruminating on certain things will, rewire your brain to continue along those paths. I think that's
So
like a big
what is that?
psychological thing.
Why do we have these?
Have
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 these old maps?
have these old maps? Great question. I think I was gonna say just to talk about like the energetic universe a little. I think that it's we're watching the cycle from like high vibration or low vibration to high vibration and back and forth, and the interplay between those. I think that consciousness is energy. It's the interaction between like our physical matter, our brains, our gray matter, versus the electricity that's crackling in it through like the biomechanical battery that our bodies form. And so I think it really is a beautiful thing. We're like antennas to the universe, and I think that our consciousness is like our direct interaction between those two things, which you don't really see. I mean, digitally we see it now, which is it's interesting because we're like, I guess, kind of trying to build ourselves out of computers. It feels like, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's a really interesting interaction.
I
Um,
think I
yeah.
think a lot of the stuff that is happening in our inner world from these early experiences are from earlier periods of time when we were just trying to survive, we sensed the
Yeah.
threat, whether it was real or imagined. We have these old stories, we have old fears, old betrayals, old patterns.
Yeah.
And we're just trying to keep alive.
Well, I think
So
those same grooves that are worn into our brains are worn into our DNA, and I think that it proves it out. They say that if you know you that trauma skips generations. So if your grandparents were traumatized, then you'll either receive benefits or negatives from it, as opposed to direct passing on. But they do show that DNA changes within like 3 or 4 generations.
yeah, I mean, and to go back to earlier episode,
Hmm.
where we talked about religion and my upbringing and the generational trauma that I've had,
Yeah.
uh from that, but one way that is helpful to explore all this stuff that we don't necessarily need anymore, or not that we don't need it or not to forget about it, is we have to talk to our unconscious.
Yeah.
Hello, inner world. I know you're trying to protect me, but I'm not that kid anymore. Or, let's update this map. And that is not woohoo stuff. That is psychology. It's Jung. It's trauma science. It's a big part of our game. It's our inner world is the oldest part of us. It's trying to
Yeah.
protect us with but it's outdated information. We are still surviving with outdated information, and I think that's a big part of why I've why we're in the problems that we are in.
Hmm.
So I just wanted to end with, because we're going over, I think
Oh
now.
yeah, we're 2 minutes over.
But yeah, well, but I just wanted to end with Lionel Snell, aka Ramsey Duke.
Okay.
What he was writing about when he came up with the title, is that he wasn't. He was trying to reveal he was writing a parody, that people, and he was trying to say how people treat magic the way they treat self-help, as a shortcut to power.
Hmm.
But the real secret is that belief and imagination and symbolic action shape behavior and perception.
Hmm.
And magic works because it changes the magician, not the universe. The person who is practicing the ideas of things like synchronicities and saying maybe this has some connection to something else going on in my inner life. The person who is having the conversation with himself about things that he doesn't normally talk about is now bringing up those obstacles that
Hmm.
uh, that exposes how people already do. We're all, and that's the thing about this modern world, and that's why we're at this really interesting turning point right now, is
Hmm.
that people are already doing magic unconsciously through desire and fantasy and fear and ritualized behavior. It's and what he was doing, what Lionel Snell was doing, he wasn't selling spells, and he was selling self-awareness. He was just really trying to get us to open up away from all the things that were stopping us from seeing ourselves because they were too painful to see.
Mm, that's important.
Yeah, and so that's really I'm dropping the mic. You got Mike, you got a mic to drop?
Do I got a mic to drop? Let's see. What do I gotta say? I I guess just to bring it all around. Yeah, I think especially after, watching this Knicks game and seeing just like, seeing any outpouring of joy, any outpouring of community is amazing to me, and I think probably anybody seeing it, it will be amazing. And I think that it's so important that we continue to seek out symbols that bring people together as opposed to divide them. And like, yeah, I hope that we can figure out because well, I'm saying that, and I'm realizing that even in basketball, it being a game, there have to be winners and there have to be losers, and maybe that's the reality of it. But I would love if we were able to find or able to play a game where everybody wins and everybody walks away feeling like a winner. Um, and I'm inspired to try to continue to seek that out.
I mean, I think bravo, and I think that's where art and imagination and creativity and making
Yes,
music
yes.
and making something that makes people want to move and dance
Mhm.
and sing. I mean, that's it, brother. To me, that's where it's at. And so I mean, that's why I mean, this is why I'm I'm that we're working so hard here because I think I'm really actually uh, trying to be helpful in helping people get to a point of understanding where
Mhm.
they're okay, and your trauma can be worked out, and
Yeah.
things that are happening in the past, well, maybe it's all just one form. Maybe Einstein is right, and maybe the science is right, and maybe that's why it's the scientists who can be remote viewers, because they truly have worked out the science and math, and they know 100% sure, they're sure of their identity as being one universal platform,
Mhm.
where
Yeah.
one identity of that. It's not looking into the future. The future is here. We just have to be willing to accept that and see it for what it is.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. That's I mean, that's really the only way forward. The only healthy way, maybe.
For now, like in 100 years, there'll be some new other way.
Of course.
But I like to think that we're on a path, brother, to getting people to getting like I think I mentioned Just Screw from Mumbo Jumbo. That's one of the
Yeah.
books. Ishmael Reed, and Just Screw is the antivirus. And the antivirus makes people dance and laugh and have a good
Mhm.
time, and the government is trying to shut it down.
Mhm.
Isn't that what's happening?
Feels that way.
Yeah.
Absolutely
So
feels that way. It does
yeah,
feel it feels a bit oppressive in here, I'll say.
yeah. And it doesn't have to be, and we don't
No.
have. I don't feel when I'm talking to you. I don't feel it. I
Yeah.
feel I feel just screw.
Just grew.
Yeah,
Feel
I
just
feel
grew.
happy and joyful, and I'm like I just want to make people dance and laugh
I
and
love
have a
that.
good time. Yeah,
Yeah, let's keep up that energy and
100%.
try to come to I don't know. What's our goal? Are we trying to yeah, I don't know. I have to think
Just
about
screw.
just grew.
Just screw is a pretty good goal.
Yeah,
And and
I
and
agree with that.
getting the vote out for midterms and making sure that we are just screw,
Yeah,
that we're all working collectively together to be winners, that we are winners, that we just have to see it, that we don't have to fear each other.
right. Yeah. Collective effort. I
Yeah.
think if the more people can come together. And I hope we begin to see that as opposed to more fracturing, which it does feel like there's a lot more fracturing. But hey, maybe that's just the media's take on it.
Exactly, that's exactly what I've been saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
revolution will
we're
not be
being
televised.
we're being manipulated because it's convenient, and because it can make
Mm-hmm.
money for people.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree.
Yeah.
Well,
We did it.
We did it. Another episode down. Yeah. Hooray.
And
Okay.
I think we blasted our way to megabucks with secret sex power formulas.
I think we're blasting our way a
We
little bit closer every time, every
we
recording.
certain I think we overcame the dumbfuckness.
Yeah, you think so?
I never for the time being,
Yeah, at least yeah, I
for the
agree.
moment.
I agree. I feel that way too. I feel like a weight has been lifted.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay.
All right. Talk to you next week. That was
Till
great.
yeah,
I love
till
it.
we meet again.
I really love it.
Okay. All right. Well, that has been the episode, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for stopping in and listening to Larry and I blather on. We'll be back. We'll be back at some point in the near future. Also,
Next
don't
week.
forget to next week. Don't forget to vote for our friend Larry. By the way, we're still in the midst of what is it? The People's Champion, the People's Artist,
The people's artist,
the People's.
and yeah, that's great. Thanks for mentioning that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Don't.
a quarter finalist, and in 10 days I will be a semifinalist.
Okay. Yeah, we can't forget that self promotion is also a goal, and that's okay. And that's okay.
Especially when so much of my goal is about turning people on to Just Grew.
Right. Yeah, you got to have reach. You got to have clout. You got to have maybe a couple bucks in your pocket as well would
Yeah.
help with that.
That
So
that
yeah,
would be that would be helpful, but it's also just important to get the message out there of these things that we're talking about.
yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. Well, I look forward to our talk next week and
Yeah.
yeah, till we meet again, my friend.
Okay.